G'day guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, November the 11th, 2024, and it is Remembrance Day, so I'm sure you all know about that, but it's always a special day on the calendar, Remembrance Day, and I'm sure there's a lot of servicemen over the country at the moment who we'll be thinking of today. So another big weekend of boxing. We had two fight nights on. Yesterday we had Jaron Boots Ennis and Bam Gonzalez. On Saturday was Keyshawn Davis. So yeah, not a bad weekend of boxing. It was the top ranked show on Saturday was like a marathon, but yesterday's wasn't too bad on DAZN. So hope you had a great weekend watching the boxing. I've got a few in the chat already. There's quite a few comments in there. So looks like everyone's getting in nice and early. I'm going to bring up, if I can, the live chat as we go. I'll just mute that because the comments always come up in all sorts of different orders. So yeah, we'll discuss that. Whatever else you want to discuss, as always, it's your show. So make sure you put your comments, questions, whatever it might be, in the chat, and let's talk some boxing. Let's start with Big J. Now, where's your first comment there, mate? There we go. I don't know why it does this, by the way. Let's start with Big J. Any news on the No Limit fight card on the 27th? I think it's been canned. Excellent opportunity for me and the chump. What I heard, Big J, is that there's going to be two shows in December, not in November. So I think there's going to be one on the 6th. Hang on, let me bring up the calendar here. It will be the 5th or the 6th, Big J. I think it's going to be the 6th, which is a Friday night, and there'll be one the week after. So there's going to be two shows in December for No Limit, from what I'm hearing. So just check your social media guides, whatever it might be, but that's what I'm hearing at the moment, Big J. I didn't really know much about the 27th. Just excuse me there. It's a bit warm in here, so I've got a towel there. I can't put the fan on because it's too loud. So that's what I'm hearing, Big J. So keep an eye on that. Who's next? Still with Big J. For you to be okay with the champ. Okay. Yep. Okay. You and the chump. You can sort it out in the chat there, mate. Where's Peter? G'day, Peter. I see you still haunting me with those, or harassing me with those black and white checkered squares you got there. Haven't you given us Carlton supporters enough grief over the last few years, Peter, with that Collingwood stuff? Watch the Ennis fight, and he got the W, but his fanboys are delusional if they think he can take a belt at 154. He's a good fighter, not a great fight, way too easy to hit. It wasn't a great fight, Peter, and I talked about this on the Walking Boxing this morning. Yeah, look, I don't know. Look, as I said in the video, I've never really been a massive rap for Boots Ennis. Obviously, he's got all the talent in the world, super speed, he's got some power, but his level of opposition has been really poor. So that's probably where, like a lot of fighters out there at the moment, I just put an asterisk beside them and say, okay, these guys look okay. They look good. They look like they can fight. But as we've seen countless times, you have to see them in with elite opposition before you can rate these guys. It's as simple as that, because anyone can look good against standard opposition, and then they get in there with someone that can handle themselves, and it all goes pear-shaped. I think yesterday, from what I gathered with Boots Ennis, he just wasn't there. I know it's in front of his hometown. He wasn't there. I know he got exposed a little bit by Karan. What is it? Shurhadziev, is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. Karan, we'll call him. Look, I just don't think he could get up for the fight. Let's remember last year. I mean, it's not like it was 5 years ago. It was last year he beat this opponent easily the first time. Didn't lose a round in that fight. And I just think, look, and credit to him, by the way, because he could have even given up the belt and moved up for bigger fights or whatever it might have been. But he was mandated to take the fight. He took the fight. It just got the job done. But in my opinion, he just didn't really get out of third gear. Karan, whatever his name is, he performed a lot better than the first fight, and I think a lot of it was by actually putting a little bit of pressure on Ennis and really making him earn the fight this time and not being walked down and dictated to. I think he really dug his heels in and tried to throw some power shots in there as well, and did catch Ennis. So I just thought it was a little bit careless. I just think that he thought it was just all going to happen again. He just got careless and walked into a few shots. I'm not going to just judge him just by that, but geez, it certainly raises a few question marks, doesn't it? How is he going to hang with those really elite 154-pounders if he does go up? So, yeah, but I'm with you, mate. I was not impressed at all. All right, Tommy Dukes in the chat. Where are you there, mate? I didn't realise I was messaging you on your other stream that is ready for Tyson and Jake. Yeah, now on that, if you follow the channel, you would see you put a notification up that this week we're going to launch a new show. Now, you would have noticed we've done two or three shows, whatever it was, of the deep dive show. It's getting a little bit difficult to do that. I mean, I do the walking boxing every single morning, so I'm pretty much every day keeping up to date with everything, and it's just hard with work and family and just other bits and pieces. I've got a bit going on, so what I've decided to do is not run the deep dive show, but create another show that we do only when there's a big event on, and it's just simply going to be called Fight Week. So Big J will be on there. We'll get Jay McAllister. We'll probably at some stage get Tszyu Brown and Nunaboy, whoever we can get on there, but it'll just be a panel just previewing the fights. And this week, of course, probably not the greatest one to start with, Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, but it is a big event. And the reason I'm doing it, by the way, before you come at me, because I have been very critical of the fight, I'm probably more interested in previewing the card. A lot of interest in the Aussie on the card, Dana Coolwell. He's fighting Bruce Carrington, which will be a very, very big test for Dana. And also the girls, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, which will be a fantastic fight. So I think we've got to cover the card. But also this weekend, we have the doubleheader on Stan. It was a Paulo Acuso, Clay Waterman, and then Chris Turzieski, I think it is, and Tyson Pedro are fighting. So we're going to preview both those events. So what we'll do, rather than do it every week or every fortnight, whenever there's a big fight coming up, we will do the program called Fight Week, where we go over the card and preview it and whatever else. So I think for the rest of the year, we probably have, the Liam Paro fight. We'll have Usyk and Fury. So a little bit spasmodically rather than just lock them in, because it just gets a little bit hard for me to commit that all the time, especially when I'm just doing so much content on a daily and weekly basis. So, but yeah, so I didn't see the comment, Tommy, but thanks for leaving it anyway, mate. I'll have a look at it later. All right, Big J. All right. I hope everyone had a great Remembrance Day. Thanks, Big J, and took a minute to pause in respect for those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in service of this country, lest we forget. Very well said there, Big J. Yep, that was couldn't have said that better myself. Still with a Big J. Where are you there, mate? I don't know what happens with all these comments all over the place. All right. Also, besides Justin Frost, does anyone know of any other servicemen or women who are boxers? Would like to know. That's a very, very good question, Big J. I know, of course, Justin Frost. I think he's retired now, hasn't he? But out of the service and served his country with distinction by all accounts. But I'm not quite sure. Can't answer that, Big J. If anyone else out there knows of any, I'm sure there's got to be plenty out there that are either in the Army or Reserve or have served in the past. But they do a great job, the servicemen, that's for sure. All right, back to Tommy. I'll get through a few of these and then we should be back on track. All right, Bosie Ennis, I have to start with, I thought was horrendous. From the end of round 2 on, Bosie instructions were get him out of there, man. All that does is add more panic pressure on Boots. I thought exactly the same thing, Tommy, and I'm pretty sure the commentary team mentioned it as well. I can't remember who it was, but I concur 100% because all he was saying is, just get him out of there, man. Just get him out. Well, hey, Bosie, I wish it was that easy, mate. You've got a world-class fighter in front of you who is obviously, he's come to fight. So, and I think all he did, Tommy, was run the risk for Boots to get caught with some shots, which he did actually do, or what actually happened to Boots. So I'm with you there. I think I would have thought the advice would have been between rounds is Boots, step it up, put the foot down a little bit, but be careful. Okay, let's really put the pressure on him, but make sure he's dangerous, this guy. Just be careful what you're doing when you're coming in. Hands nice and high. Be careful on the way out. You're not getting caught, which he did a few times. So this is what distinguishes sometimes, Tommy, I think, the good trainers from the great trainers. You would never hear someone like a Freddie Roach or a Robert Garcia or any of those types of trainers saying, just get him out of there. Well, I wish it was that easy, mate. You know, it's not just, why didn't I think of that? Just get him out of there. It can't be that hard. So, yeah, I'm with you there, Tommy. I wasn't really happy about that at all. All right. Still with Tommy. Where are we? Sorry. Yep. Lynden, being an ex-fighter, when you go to the corner, do you like being coached or did too much instruction hurt you? I've heard boxers say work was done in camp, so just sit there and look pretty trained. Yeah. Very, very good question, though, Tommy. And I don't think this really matters whether you're an amateur or a pro. Me, personally, I didn't like a lot of instructions between rounds. I like to just go back, and I know everyone's different, but you asked about me. So I would just go back to the corner. I would stand in the corner for a few seconds, just take a deep breath, sit down, get the mouth guard taken out, just take another breath, have a sip of water, just regain my composure. And then my trainer, my usual trainer, Pat Connolly, got a little bit different in the when you had other trainers in your corner for international tournaments or state tournaments, but it was just a word in the ear, a bit of advice. That was it. So none of this, all this other crap they're going with these days. Just one bit of advice, another deep breath, another swig of water, and then you're away. But that's just me. I never reacted to anyone to anyone in my face. You get a lot of these trainers, they like to, rev them up and put water in the face and swirl the towel around. I just that wouldn't work for me. The one thing I've just never understood, Tommy, is the trainers who get in there and you can tell they're inexperienced. Because they say to the fighter, and most of the time they're only inexperienced fighters as well, they'll say, all right, you got to throw a 1-2, and he throws the left, you got to go to the right, and then go to the body, and if he throws the right, you got to go under that, and then throw a left hook to the head and to the body. I mean, it's just white noise. That's all it is. I can guarantee the fighter's not taking any of it in, because you're back to the corner, especially as you go later on in the fight. You're not that I went late in my fights. The most I ever went was 5 rounds, but it's the fighters that they've just got tunnel vision, and the fighters or the trainers that get in the ring and start barking all these different instructions. How the hell are they supposed to take that in? You just can't. And you can tell, again, as I said, the inexperienced trainers. The really good trainers, like you say there, the work was done in camp. So it's really just reinforcing what you've done in camp. Now, the thing is, when it's a little bit hard with international tournaments in the amateurs because you're coming up against fighters you might have never seen before. But in the pros, you spend a camp. That's why they call it a camp. You're in there, you're doing your training. You've got one fighter to worry about. You know his strengths, you know his weaknesses, and you've got 8, 10, 12 weeks, whatever it might be most of the time, to get your plan right. And you do all the plans in camp. So during the fight, all you're doing is reinforcing what you've been doing in camp. Don't forget, go to the left, don't go to the right. He's powerful when with his hook or whatever it might be, move to your left. Okay, don't forget, after you go to the head, we've got to step off to the right, whatever it might be. Okay, but this is what camps are for. And that's why the really good teams, the boxer and the coach, it's just effortlessly for it. And sometimes I've had people say to me, geez, that trainer doesn't say much during the rounds. Well, because they've done the work. And as I said, it's just reinforcing what you've done in camp. And that's why it might be, say, Freddie Roach just have one little sentence to his fighter and they just know what to do. And that, again, is a sign of an excellent trainer. The ones that have to go on with all these different plans, they're just wasting the time. And more importantly, the fighter's very valuable 1-minute break of just confusing him and just not letting him focus. So everyone's a little bit different, but that's the way I saw it anyway. Tommy? All right, I've got a few more comments before we're back on track here. Is that Trevor? Where are we, Trevor? I think I saw you before. There you are. All right. Hi, Lynden. Enjoying your career talks on walking boxing every day. What are your thoughts on Abdulla Mason on the weekend? Looking impressive. Yeah. Well, thanks, Trevor. I appreciate you watching the videos, mate. Look, I have a bit of fun with it, and it's been good at the moment. If you've been watching the videos all along, you would have heard me say that this time of year there's a little bit of a lull, not much happening. So I thought I would fill the gaps with just a little bit about myself, because I do get asked a lot, whether it be messages or whatever it might be, that people saying, what do you do with this and what do you do that and what do you think of that? So I've probably used that time, and I must admit I've enjoyed it, Trevor. It's probably been good to sort of reminisce and go back over my own career. And again, I didn't turn pro or anything like that, but I've almost tried to use it as a bit of an online diary, so that who knows, in 10 years' time or whatever, maybe one day when my kids might have an interest in what I did in my career, they might look at the videos and go, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. But also for my own benefit as well, to have all that. It's almost like doing a podcast with yourself. That's pretty much what I've done it over about 20 episodes. That's sort of the way sort of worked out. But as I said, mate, I really enjoyed. I really do. And Abdulla Mason, yes, geez, he had to work hard for it, didn't he? It was what did he get decked twice, and he put, what was his opponent? Vasquez, I think his name was. He put him down twice. What a fight! And as I said again in the videos, it was probably the most entertaining fight I've seen all year. I'm not going to call it fight of the year, but that first round could have been round of the year. Awesome fight. Look, he's got some work to do, Trevor, but I really liked his attitude after the fight. He was interviewed in the ring, and besides his corner just keeping yapping on about prospect of the year, which I was getting sick of, I really liked his outlook on it, saying, yeah, okay, I probably rushed a little bit. That's boxing. It happens. I'll learn from it. I really liked his whole attitude, Abdulla Mason. I think with that head on his shoulders and obviously his ability, he's going to be a really good fighter going forward. He's only had, 5 fights, I think, now. He's not that experienced, but, mate, he's definitely going to be a world-ranked fighter and will probably no doubt get a shot at some sort of belt down the track. But, yeah, as I said, he had to work for it, but, yeah, very impressive, mate. And, again, not just with his hands, but also upstairs as well. All right, Tommy, the left hook you were talking about. The left hook was catching Boots all night long. It looked like he gassed out. A guy like Virgil Ortiz will be in Boots' chest all night long, and we just saw versus Boachek, he can last for all 12. Yeah, from what I saw yesterday, Tommy, I would be 100% backing Virgil Ortiz to beat Boots Ennis. Look, but again, I'm not going to write Boots Ennis off entirely because he has looked pretty good against some other opposition. And again, as I said, I just think he just took yesterday a little bit too easy, I think, if that's probably the right word for it. But you can be rest assured that if he does come up against Virgil Ortiz, that you're going to see a 100% different fighter. And I think he will rise to the occasion, but he's going to have to. Not going to go to 154 from 147. And have the luxuries that he's had at 147 of being able to dictate what he's doing in fights. Because the really elite fighters don't let you have that luxury of doing what you want. And that's one of the things that Boots has the benefit of in his last few fights, is that he can fight when he wants to, he can rest when he wants to, he can pretty much do what he wants. These guys at 154 are going to make him work and test him. Test his chin, test his stamina, test his heart. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Does he want, as they say, does he want the smoke? Tommy, we'll see. All right. Garden snake mentality. Imagine Ryan Garcia left hook banging off Boots' head. Well, he got nailed a few times with the hook, didn't he, Garden Snake? Yeah, I'm with you. Is Ryan Garcia, do you think he's really serious about going to 147? I suppose he's sort of made mention of it, but he hasn't really given it, I don't think, a real indication. Because 1 minute he wants to fight Boots, then he wants to fight Terence Crawford. Then he's going back to fight Devin Haney. Not really sure where Ryan Garcia is at. He's doing that exhibition. What is it? Is it in December, January, whatever it is, or February? Might be February. He's doing the I think. Don't quote me on that. But he's doing an exhibition in Saudi Arabia to get around his ban. So I don't know. But I think if they did fight, I think Boots Ennis has got the size and style to beat Ryan Garcia. It's just a matter of whether, as you say there, he can protect or have the phone up to protect that left hook from Garcia. Because the thing with Garcia, it's one of those really hard to read hooks, and people are saying, how couldn't Haney read it? And other fighters haven't been able to read it because it's almost like a whip. He doesn't sort of step out. He doesn't really give an indication he's going to throw it. He just it's all arm punch, but it has the desired effect because it catches his opponents off guard. I remember Danny Garcia was a little bit similar as well. You remember he caught Amir Khan and lots of others as well, just with that sweeping left hook that just came from nowhere. That's the sort of hook Ryan Garcia has. And if Boots Ennis doesn't do the work at Garden Snake and answer the phone with that right hand nice and high, then that could be bouncing off his head as well. So, look, he's got some work to do, Boots. Isn't it amazing, though, one fight, we're all suddenly doubting his worth. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Boots. The Ukrainians, Garden Snake, they are tough. They are extremely tough. And they're just spoilers. They really are. They're just, like, you never really see a Ukrainian get stopped because they are just hard. And they're fit and they're tough, uncompromising, and they just keep coming. And that's what he was like yesterday. And he fought a lot better fight than the first time around, because the natural thing with the Ukrainians is pretty much to come forward, isn't it? And that's the natural way of fighting. I just thought he came to fight and Boots Ennis didn't. All right, who's Who's that there? Cal Jane. Where are you? Cal Jane Hartman. How are you, Cal? Can you do a show on old and new trainers such as Johnny Lewis and the like? Love your work. Thanks, Cal. I appreciate that. Yeah, we could probably do a show. Maybe so just on some of the old trainers. I'm thinking, obviously, there's Johnny Lewis. Jack Rennie is probably another one that comes to mind. Ambrose Palmer is another one. There's so many great trainers from all over the country. Yeah, we could probably do that. Some of the legends of yesteryear and then some of the trainers of today to watch. Yeah, 100%, mate. We could probably either do a show on it or even walking boxing. We could do a little bit of a discussion about that as well. There's Eminem. Where did I see you before? How are you, mate? Welcome to the show. Glenn. Where are you, Glenn? Keyshawn. Very good. Abdullah showed grit and class. Bam, bloody amazing. And Boots very, very disappointing with no plan B. And Dad was poor in the corner, surprisingly. Evening all. Yeah, look, you're right, Glenn. And we've obviously touched on a little bit of this, but we haven't actually mentioned Keyshawn Davis, who was very, very impressive. Now, I still think that what was his name that he fought? Lemos was custom made for Keyshawn. That style just comes straight ahead. A little bit like Castano was as well, a little bit, and Medina to some extent. Medina obviously was just a rock coming forward and could punch. But I just thought he was custom made. But having said that, you've still got to get the job done, and Keyshawn Davis did that and did it very, very well. And what I was really impressed about is when he did get him hurt, bang, 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 all over. Didn't muck around. There was no clinching, no holding, no gassing himself out. Really picked his punches really well, and I really like the way he went about it. So, look, he's for real. Again, Lemos was custom made, but you can only do what you can do. And I think Keyshawn Davis has got big future in the division. Is he ready for the elites? I still don't think so. I still think he's 2, maybe 3 fights away from fighting those elite guys, but you don't know until you don't know, do you? Like, why not just get in there and have a crack? He's young enough, he can always come back. So if he fights Tank Davis next, or Berachuk, or whoever it might be, and doesn't get the win, he's young enough and got enough time in boxing that he can easily come back. So remember, doesn't matter if you lose these guys. There's plenty of opportunities. The Mayweather effect, we've got to get rid of it. So I think, why not? But as far as if I had to be nailed down to is he actually ready for a Tank Davis, I would say no, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't take the fight. So, but Bam, wow, just a sensational little fighter, isn't he? And Boots, very disappointing. All right, Eminem, great to see Vegas Larfield back in the ring and already booked in for his next fight on the Wallace Hooney card. Yeah, I did see that, Eminem. I haven't actually seen the highlights, if I'm being honest. I missed it. Was on Saturday night. I haven't seen any of it. But he's a very, very good young kid, and I think he's gonna be a really good prospect going forward. Vegas Larfield. I like what they've done with him, because they've obviously pulled him out after that loss, and they've worked on things in the gym. He's a very, very young guy. Remember, he might only be like 19 or 20 years old. Maybe I'm wrong, but he's not very old. So if they've done what I think they've done and actually pulled him out and spent 6 months, 8 months, whatever it's been. I can't even remember when the fight was. Let me have a look. When he did lose to... Who was it? Who did he lose to again? Hang on, let me have a look. Sorry, guys. All right, let's bring up his record there. All right, so he's now moved to 10-1. All right, so before... That was Albert Nolan, that's right. So that was in September last year. So he's been out of the ring for 14 months, and I like it. That was against Josh Wright. So he had was it second round stoppage, I think it was, whatever it was. But yeah, I like the fact they've pulled him out, worked on some stuff in the gym, and now they've gone, okay, we think we're back on track. Let's go bang, bang and get these fights back into this kid. I'm not sure whether it's got his date of birth. 22 he is. He's 22 years of age. So he's about to have his 12th fight against Luke Martin on that card, by the way. And that has, so it's Conor Wallace, Justice Hooney, Austin Akuso, and Vegas Larfield. So yeah, should be a really, really good card. So that is December the 11th, that card. Yeah, but I'm glad they've got him back amongst it there, Eminem. All right, Mutsy, how are you there, Mutsy? Where are you? Bam is a dead set beast. He's only a pup too. Imagine him in a couple of years when he gets his man strength. Yeah, he's like just a kid, isn't he? 24 years of age. But I'm a big fan of his, not just because of his obviously natural boxing ability, but just, he's just a really humble, down-to-earth, well, young man. He really is. And I wouldn't expect anything less coming from Robert Garcia's gym. If you see the common trait amongst all his fighters, they're all very respectful. I know sometimes they can maybe go off script a little bit, but they're all so well trained, so well drilled. And Bam, yeah, well, they're talking about maybe fighting Chocolatito next. I think that goes the same way as the fights with Estrada and Guevara on the weekend. I think he can stop Chocolatito. And maybe, just maybe, we might get those fights next year with the likes of Inoue or Nakatani. So plenty to look forward to with Bam Rodriguez. There's Shadow Boxer. Bootstad was on doing his best Tszyu Senior impression in the corner. Terrible. It was, wasn't it? I just can't get my head around just get him out of there. Like, wouldn't you think this guy is supposedly a world-class trainer? Now, I've got a feeling, that happens a lot in boxing, by the way, and in other sports, team sports as well, where this is not a matter of the trainer making the fighter look good. This is the fighter making the trainer look good, if that makes sense. So it's Boots Ennis has got by so far by natural talent, fighting fighters that are beneath him as far as the level goes, and the trainers, his dad's been able to sort of swept along with the ride. On the weekend, when things probably weren't going the way they planned, when he really probably needed some good advice, all he had was, just get him out of there. If only it was that simple, Bozy. If only it was just, hey, just click our fingers and we'll all be world-class trainers. Just get him out of there. Can't be that hard. But he did do his best Tszyu Senior impression there, Shadow Boxer. And I must admit, I'm not a big one for fathers being in the corner of their sons, no matter what anyway. I don't like it. I just think they sort of see things differently, and the best one is probably Tszyu Senior. You know, when Tszyu Junior is getting towed up by George Camboso. Well, not towed up, but he's... You know, George is having some great success against him, and he had nothing. He had nothing to offer except telling his son that he was winning the fight and winning easily. Just bad advice. So, as I said, I'm not a big one for it. I just think the guy in the corner needs to be 100% neutral so they can deliver the message without anything, the relationship, sort of coming in between them there. So, all right, we'll move on. There's Garden Snake again. Keyshawn showed how to fight in front of the home crowd. Lemos tried cheating, coming in 6.4 pounds over and was punished for it brutally. Great win for Keyshawn. It looks like Chuck title shot next. Well, call it karma, Garden Snake, wasn't it? It was, 6.4 pounds. It's not like he missed by, what's half a kilo, 1.5 pound or whatever it might be. 6.4 pounds. So that is 3 kilograms. How do you miss by 3 kilograms? It is just ridiculous. And I'm not sure what the penalty was. I think it was obviously to do with his purse, so he got a nice chunk of that. But he got everything that was coming to him, Garden Snake, to get knocked out like he did. And he looked big in there too, didn't he? And maybe he was taking a leaf out of the Ryan Garcia book and thought, oh, well, I won't worry, because there's no real title on the line. And one thing, actually, speaking of titles, when they were introducing Keyshawn Davis, I think there's got to be a rule in place from the announcers. They don't announce secondary titles. Now, what I'm speaking about with that, I'm referring to is Intercontinental this and that and Silver this and Interim that. All these ridiculous titles being rolled out for Keyshawn Davis. If you haven't got a world title belt, or if it's a domestic fight, Australian title, British title, whatever it might be, leave out the titles. Because these days, nearly every single fight of any substance has got some belt attached. We don't need to hear all the belts. And another culprit of that here in Australia is Lieutenant Dan Hennessy. Look, I really like Lieutenant Dan. I think he does a great job. He's a real character. But Dan, do you really need to rattle off all these belts I have? Because some of these guys that fight on these no limit cards have got 7 or 8 belts over the journey, or have accumulated 7, 8, 9, even 10 belts. I used to have a running joke with Jade Mitchell. He had more belts than fights. He had to bring in all his team members to carry all his belts. He had that many of them. G'day to Jay too, if you're out there watching, mate. Haven't seen you for a while. Hope you're well. But so I think there should be a rule brought in for these announcers. Hey guys, don't worry about these regional belts and interim belts and all these other stupid belts everyone's got. We get it. They're a good fighter, but it just sounds silly. And the average punter out there is saying, well, what's an interim belt and what's a intercontinental belt and what's the east-west belt and the upside-down belt? I don't know. So let's just make a point any announcers out there watching, just keep it simple. Okay, I know you got to do the prolonged thing, and they all try and outdo each other with their little introductions and all that, but I don't think we really need to know that he's East-West Intercontinental Silver Champion. So anyway, or worse yet, a former Intercontinental East-West Interim Champion, or whatever the hell it might work out to. Anyway, I'll move on, but I'm with the Garden Snake. He got what was coming to him. All right, where are we? Glenn. Bam is just bloody amazing, and boy, he has some pop. And that punch that he knocked Guevara out with, Glenn, was just a perfectly placed shot. Not necessarily all power. Of course, he does put some power behind it, but it's almost he moved to the left, he moved to the right, he moved back to the left again, and then just got in perfect position and just snuck the little uppercut in there. Guevara didn't even see it coming. Just a brilliant little fighter. Brilliant fighter. All right, Shadow Boxer. When you do the 31-minute rounds, how long do you rest between each round? I rest for 20 seconds, Shadow Boxer. Now, if you didn't see last week, I'll just give a little bit of fitness advice. Just to keep it interesting, rather than doing, say, 10 3-minute rounds, do 30 1-minute rounds and just mix it up all different rounds. So 31's there, Shadow Boxer, with 20 seconds in between. So not a lot of time. But what you find is when you do the 1-minute rounds, it's easy, keeps you very engaged in the workout because it's always something different happening per round. Don't do the same thing 30 times because you're wasting time. Really map out what you're going to do, and it just keeps you interested. But also what it does subconsciously, because they're only 1-minute rounds, you tend to work a little bit harder. It's just a subconscious thing. It's 1 minute, I've got to go hard. So it does make you work, and you got to get used to it. But maybe, if you're just starting out, start with 10 1-minute rounds, then go to 15, then 20, and just work your way up. But it's a really good way of just changing things up a little bit and taking the boringness out of it sometimes of just punching a bag. And that's one thing I would strongly recommend is just, if you're working your workout out on a whiteboard or whatever it might be, just make it, even if it's like 6 different things and you do it 5 times, or 5 different things 6 times, whatever it might be, or 3 different things you do 10 times, whatever. But just mix it up. Don't just hit the bag for 30 1-minute rounds. So a little bit of advice there. All right. Dave, yep, sweating a bit. I am, David. Hang on. I've got my towel here. Yeah, and I've got studio lights in here. They tend to glisten off my sort of bald head a little bit there. But yeah, I'm not cutting weight, mate. But it's a stuffy little room in here. It's actually a little studio, and you can see behind me. It's got all the where are we? All here, all the soundproof stuff here, and good. My wife Tara put all this together for me. So yeah, it's really good. But it does get a bit hot and stuffy in here. I'm not quite sure what the room was, if I'm being honest. It's about the size of a very, very small bedroom, but it's just a nothing room in our house upstairs in our sort of attic part. So you got to make do with what you got, David. But yes, it's a little bit warm in here, and I have got a fan on the wall, but I can't turn it on, one, because I can't find another outlet there. I've got too many lights and computers and God knows whatever plugged into it to find a little outlet for it, but also it's very loud, so it's probably going to come through here. So I'm just going to have to battle through it, David, so bear with me, mate. All right, Glenn. Got to give credit to Karen, fought very well and a tough bastard. Fought very well, Glenn, and he'll get some other big fights, I would think. I wouldn't be surprised if he might get a shot at maybe one of the other champions at some stage, I would think. He fought very well, that's for sure. All right, Garden Snake again. Did you get to see the main event on Thursday night? Oslees Iglesias. If so, do you think he's ready for it? And Billy or Munguia? No, I didn't, Garden Snake. I didn't see him, unfortunately. Yeah, there's a bit going on the last few days, wasn't there? But no, I didn't see him, mate, so I can't sort of give a comment for him. Now, Munguia, is he fighting this weekend or next weekend? Very, very soon, I think, isn't he? Or is it maybe December? Whatever it might be. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Christian and Billy. I'm sure he's just waiting to see what Canelo's doing in May, I would think. Let's go Team Jake. Is that this week? Oh, this is in reference to my Fight Week video show. Yeah. It's going to be interesting, Garden Snake. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what the script's going to be. I still stand by that. I think that it's the Rocky Balboa script, where against, what's his name? What's Antonio Tarver's character? Mason the Lion Dixon, where he fights, he gets through the 8 rounds, He has a good performance. He has his moments, but Jake Paul ultimately wins the fight and goes on for the rest of his career. And Mike sails off in the sunset with a massive payday and his integrity and everything intact. Let's see. I think it's on Friday night here from memory. No, it'll be Saturday here because it's the 15th, so it's Friday night in the States. All right, Peter. The Americans are saying that if Inoue goes up, Bam will school him. I would back Inoue every day of the week. Skills pay the bills. Yeah. So Inoue won't go up, though, will he? Bam will go up, won't he? Because Bam's at 115 at the moment, and Inoue's at 122, although I'm sure they could meet at 118. I think I would still, at this stage, probably back Inoue at the moment. And all it is a gut feeling. I've got really no real reason to say why Inoue would win except gut feeling. I think I do get a little bit worried about Inoue in some instances where he can get caught. He gets careless and can get caught. And Bam Rodriguez is an absolute sharpshooter and can punch. Maybe the weight difference might just take away because as Bam goes up, the power's got to diminish. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough fight. I can see both guys winning. I think if Inoue if he fought a really smart fight, a little bit more cautious, where he really picked his shots rather than getting reckless, I think he could get the job done. If he gets wild and starts to throw bombs at Bam with reckless abandon, or whatever you might want to call it, then Bam has got the ability to hurt him. So let's just hope we get an opportunity to see it, Peter. But I don't think Bam schools Inoue at all. But geez, what a fight it'd be. Whoa. Glenn. Yeah, you think he'll have to go up? Yep. There's Carl. Hope you're well. Yep, boots look ordinary. Yeah, he did, mate. Welcome to the show too, Carl. And Liam Poirot looks ready. Yeah, did you see the stare down on the weekend? I really like the way Liam's now. He's just a little bit like Jaya Pataya did. They got the surprise. I know it wasn't a surprise to us, but to the boxing world, it was a surprise as far as them winning the belts. But since they've won the belts, you can just see that both their mentalities have changed. Where they've grown into being champions, and you can't beat that. And this mindset of having the belt around your waist. Liam Parra now believes he belongs. Well, he does belong, of course, and Jai did the same thing. So, yeah, I think Richardson Hitchens, typical, Yanks sometimes. Apologies to the Yanks or the Americans that are watching, but I didn't like the way he just pretty much totally dissed Liam Parra. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I really don't think it's an anything sort of fight in those type of words. I thought Liam Parra was confident but respectful. Doesn't take much to say, hey, look, I've got my work cut out for him. I think we've got him covered. We're doing the work. We can see, flaws or whatever it might be. Should be a great fight. Best of luck and can't wait to get it on. But I don't understand this whole you've got to dish your opponent stuff. I don't like it. But Liam Parra, I think he gets the job done against Richardson Hitchens, Carl, when they do fight on the 7th of December, I think it is. All right, Mutsy. I thought there was an upset brewing at a few stages of the Boots fight. Yeah, you and me both, Mutsy. I don't know if Boots took him lightly or Karen just bunged one. Certainly gave a good account of himself. Probably a little bit of both, Mutsy, I think. Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. I thought Boots just struggled to get out of second or third gear. And Karen, whatever his name was, turned up the fight. And sometimes it's a perfect storm, and all of a sudden you've got an upset. But maybe credit to Boots Ennis. Maybe we've got to give him that, that respect that he had a bad night, but still managed to pull out a pretty comprehensive victory. I mean, I probably gave him 9 rounds out of 12. So yeah, I mean, we're all talking about how well Karan did, but end of the day, Boots still won, in a lopsided decision, didn't he? So actually, while I'm going here, I've just spotted if you haven't seen the merchandise we've got, check it out. Here's my little buddy here. Look at that. I bought one of these. Hang on. Little teddy bear with a boxing deep dive t-shirt. So I bought one just for my desk. How cool is that? I just spotted him there. But you can get bucket hats as well, coffee cups, you name it. It's now we've officially sold out to the mainstream, guys. So check out the merchandise store. We did actually get some. This is not one of them. This is actually a Rocky Balboa one I got overseas. But we did buy a few different t-shirts just to test them out. They've been washed. My wife Tara got a long sleeve t-shirt, if that's what you call them, t-shirt but the long sleeve with the boxing deep dive on the front. Washed it, and apparently all good. So if you are considering buying a shirt, rest assured that the the quality is not too bad. But yeah, I think he's pretty cool. Yeah, that's him there. Yep. I have to think of a name for him. That's the Boxing Deep Dive teddy bear. All right, enough of that. Let's move on. Where are we? Carl. I hope they pull up on. I hope they pull up on calling Boots the next Roy Jones Jr. There is zero resemblance in the ring. I'm 100% in agreement with you, Carl. This is the thing. You got to earn the mantle. I just hate when they say they're this or they're that. They haven't proven anything, and that's what showed on the weekend. Boots Ennis struggled against what would probably be deemed as probably a C grade fighter. I hate to say that, maybe B plus or B minus. Sorry, a B minus fighter, and he really struggled. Roy Jones Jr. at that stage of his career was just winning fights. Just one was easier than each one was easier than the last one. He was just an absolute gun. So that's why I'm always very, very careful to just label someone the next superstar. You can say, hey, look, they've got great potential, but until they do it in the ring against other elite fighters, you just can't rank them or rate them. It's as simple as that. There's Axie Man. Can't believe Ike Obabuchi, is that how you pronounce it, is making a comeback after being out of the ring for 25 years, fighting in Nigeria in early December. I didn't know about that, Axie Man. Out of the ring for 25 years. Hang on, I'm going to have to type his name in here. Now you got me, because I've never heard of him. I totally missed this, Axie Man. I'm not going to pretend I know what you're talking about, because I don't. Let's bring him up on BoxRec. Let's have a look. There he is. The President is his nickname. 20-0, 15 knockouts. His last fight was against Chris Bird. There you go. I hadn't heard of him, Axie Man. Thanks for bringing it up. But his last fight was in March 1999 against Chris Bird. He had a 5th round stoppage. I beat David Tour as well. Geez, maybe I have heard of him. The name just doesn't ring a bell. But you beat David Tour as well over 12 rounds in 97. Wow, who else has he fought there? They're probably the big few, or big couple, but wow, that is amazing. Axie Man, I must admit, mental blank, whatever it might, or block, whatever it might be, I'd never heard of him. But he's 20-0 and 15 knockouts. Doesn't actually have his age there, I don't think. But yeah, well, there you go. He's fighting Ayman Farouk Abbas in Nigeria over 6 rounds. That is amazing. Yep, that's crazy, mate. Edward, Eddie Hearn, there you are. Jaron Ennis is a dirty fighter. I don't, maybe don't concur there, Edward Hearn. Yeah, I don't know. He probably does a few different things, but who doesn't these days? Yeah, I didn't see anything maybe a couple things, but nothing to get too excited about. Andrew, okay, so you've obviously heard of him versus Tszyu. So what was the 12-round decision? Yeah, okay. It was a close one too, I think. That was for the WBC International Heavyweight title. There you go. No, I hadn't seen it before there, guys, so apologies for that. I read an article, says Axie Man, where Mick Francis has booked a venue on the Gold Coast for January 8th, being for Jai's mandatory IBF defence against Sin Cara. Yes, I did see that as well, Axie Man. It wouldn't surprise me if that is the case. They do want to get Jai back to Australia for a defence, and that probably makes the most sense. Although, I was just going to say maybe they would save it for February 22nd in Saudi Arabia, but I'm pretty sure he has to defend it in January against Sin Cara. So that would, probably does make sense when you think about it. But I spoke to Mick, it would have been about a month ago, I think, before this was, before the Huni and Wallace fight and all that was, actually might have been a bit before that. Might have been actually just before Jai's last fight. And they were talking about bringing him back to Australia. So, yeah, well, that might make sense there for sure, mate. But, yeah, if it is, I think he handles Sin Cara pretty easily, if you ask me. I think that's a good fight for Jai to have it here in Australia. And maybe the fact he's not really a big name, maybe that's why they don't want to do it in Saudi Arabia. Turki Al Sheikh probably doesn't maybe want that on the bill. And he might say, hey, you take that back to Australia and then we'll get you back for some of these other big fights down the track, a.k.a. Billum Smith or Zerdo Ramirez, whoever wins that one. David Kraft, good question. Jai versus Usyk, who wins at cruiserweight? Oh, well, if you get peak Usyk at cruiserweight against the current version of Jai, I would probably back Usyk reluctantly, but don't write off Jai. Having said that, in another couple of fights, I would probably go the other way and back Jai. Now, I know it's only a couple of fights, but at this level, you need to get those big fights into you. And I just think right here and now, I was really impressed with Jai's last fight. It did struggle a little bit with Breedis because of the injuries and everything else, well, both fights with Breedis. But, yeah, I would think the current version of Jai against the best cruiserweight version of Usyk, I would still probably back Usyk just. But in another 12 months' time, I'm going to back our man Jai to get the job done. And who knows? They might actually meet at heavyweight, David. We'll see. All right, Garden Snake. Boots smothers his own work a lot, and it seems he struggles with gauging distance. Struggled with a lot yesterday, Garden Snake. I know, by the way, Karan, again, whatever his name is, he's not an orthodox type of fighter. So he was very unorthodox, I suppose you'd call it. Very awkward. Just a real awkward fighter. I just think a lot of different things. I think we've got to give him a bit of a mulligan. I think if that's what they call it these days. I think we've got to give him a bit of an out. All fighters have them. Forgettable performances where they might struggle a little bit or whatever it might be. I think yesterday that's Boots Ennis' wake up call. I would think. Yeah, I think so. But we'll see in his next fight because that's where the proof will be in the pudding. Can he learn from this fight? Can he regroup? Can he put a statement on the next fight? We will see. This is where the challenge comes for him. Is this the real Boots Ennis we saw yesterday, or was just a one-off and we'll see the best version of Boots when he's more switched on? I suppose time will tell. Carl says, Virgil destroys Boots. Let's hope they make the fight. Yeah, let's hope next year, mate. That would be an awesome fight. So I know there's already been talk about it, but that's all it is at the moment. Just talk. So, and Virgil Ortiz has no fights, I don't think, lined up. Next, when did he win his belt? Was it a couple of months ago? So you'd think he would be looking at early next year, I'm probably thinking. Although he doesn't fight very often, does he? Let's have a look. Virgil Ortiz, 22-0. So he fought in August, so nothing as yet. So what was that, 3 months ago? So you never know. I would think early next year would be probably the time for him. But they are talking about Boots Ennis anyway. So again, we will see. Lots of really good fights to be made at 154. All right, Tony. How are you, Tony? Welcome to the show. Regarding Michael Zerafa, we haven't actually had a Michael Zerafa comment for quite some time, Tony. Thanks for bringing it up. What do you got for us? Do you think he will fight Nikita first and hand out an attitude adjustment to Tim after that? And then tongue-in-cheek, but I fully believe he will step up and face one or the other. Yeah, okay. So I think No Limit will probably... Well, I was going to say No Limit would probably want the Nikita fight. But Michael Zerafa, even if you hear or watch his interviews, doesn't want a bar of Nikita Tszyu. He wants Tim Tszyu. Now, the reason and I don't blame him, he's thinking, well, this is the most vulnerable that Tim's ever been, and this is the time to get Tim. Now, in my opinion, if I was managing Tim or promoting Tim, I would steer well clear of Michael Zerafa. Now, I've always said I think Tim is at least a level or two above Michael Zerafa. But right here and now, Tim's coming off that brutal loss. His mentality or his mental state's not going to be great. Michael Zerafa would be 100% riding high after that performance from Tim, and he would back himself 100%. So for Michael Zerafa, the timing has never been better for him. And for Tim, the timing has never been worse. He doesn't need the Michael Zerafa fight. And I know everyone's going to say it's the fight that the Australian public wants and it's going to be big money. The team that looks after Tim has to look at this situation and say, I don't care how much the Australian public wants it. I don't care how much money it's going to make. We've got to look at the big picture. We do not need the Zerafa fight next up. I would give Tim at least one, maybe even two fights in between that. I would be saying to Michael Zerafa, mate, hang in there until this time next year and you got your fight. We're going to give Tim 2 fights early or in the first half of 2025. winnable fights. I know most of them will be winnable for Tim, but what I get by that is getting in there with someone who's not a puncher. That would be the prerequisite. We don't want a puncher. We want a journeyman, maybe a big name or a big name from yesteryear. So maybe someone that's fought for world titles, come up short, fought some of the big guys, never beaten them, not a big puncher, durable. There's a few fighters out there will tick the bill. Get Tim 2 credible wins over those types of fighters, and then look at Michael Zerafa before you relaunch again. I think if Tim fights Michael Zerafa straight away, I've always said that Tim would make an absolute meal of Michael Zerafa. I give Michael Zerafa a chance, I really do, if they fight next. So they've got to forget what the Australian boxing public wants. They have to forget all the zeros that they might earn by fighting Michael Zerafa next and just say, we're going to wait. For no limit, let's get him in with Nikita. They need to probably say to Nikita, oh, sorry, Michael, how about you fight Nikita in the first half of next year and then maybe look at Tim in the second half of the year. I mean, lots of things going on, but I'll just underline again, mate, I do not think they should fight Michael Zerafa next, the Tim Tszyu camp. So, but the noise is getting louder, isn't it? We will see. We will see. All right, Mark. Boots' team was looking down on Jaron and didn't respect him, didn't even give him credit for bringing the fight. Tim can't overlook anyone at top level. Yep, we've seen it a lot lately, and probably the biggest example of that was Tim in his last fight, wasn't it? Didn't really give the Murtazaliev fight enough attention, I don't think. I think they would have trained just as hard. They would have had an eye on Murtazaliev, but at that time they're all talking about all these potential big fights and moving to America. And I just think they just lost track of Murtazaliev, forgot what they were there to do, and it can happen. It can happen to the best of them. The difference is being able to get through it. But I'm with you, Mark. I don't think they showed Jaron enough respect even after the fight. Just say, hey, we might have underestimated him after the first fight. We weren't probably switched on as we should be. We're going to learn from it and move on. Some of these American fighters just cannot give the opponent any credibility whatsoever. Their egos are just so incredibly high. They can't even, after they've escaped with a win over a really good opponent, just give him a compliment. A lot tougher than what we thought he was. Good job. And walk away and turn your back and never look back on him. Never have to think about him again, but just give the guy a little bit of credit. All right. Eddie Hearn again. I will make the Ortiz Boots fight happen. Watch me, says Eddie Hearn. Good stuff, mate. All right, Garden Snake. What's this about Hitchens after seeing what Keyshawn did to... what's he say about Hitchens after seeing what Keyshawn did to Lemos? I know it's different styles, but does this give Australians more confidence in Paro winning? Well, we've always been pretty confident, Garden Snake. I just think that Liam Paro he can punch, but he's a sharpshooter as well. Great endurance, just very, very good all-round fighter. I think Hitchens. No, it's Richardson Hitchens. I keep thinking Richard Hitchinson, but it's Richardson Hitchens. I'll spit that out. I think he's only got one dimension, Garden Snake, and that's that sort of flashy, let me box at long range and pick you off, and he's not going to get that with Liam Paro. Liam Paro is going to give him different dimensions, different levels, different angles, whatever it might be. And I just think Liam Paro wins that fight. So looking forward to it, though. Don't get me wrong, it's a big test for Liam Paro. But I think he's up to the level, and I think he'll get past Hitchens with flying colours and then move on to some big fights after that. All right, Carl. Keyshawn looks like a mini Terence Crawford. That corner is working. Yeah, he did, didn't he? And not by any coincidence there. Carl, of course, are from the, we've got the same trainer. Looks nothing like a fighter, does he, old Bo Mac? But he must be a very, very good trainer. But Keyshawn he's a replica of Terence Crawford. He's definitely a mini-me of Terence Crawford, and which is a good thing. But he fights exactly like him. And I really like the way they set their opponents up. And if you look at Keyshawn yesterday or Saturday, whatever it was, he'll throw a punch, he'll wait for the reaction, and then he counters a reaction. So the first punch is just a setup just to get the opponent to return fire, and then he comes back with the money punch. And they just do it so well. And, I mean, Terence Crawford's done it right through his career. No more sensationally than what he did against Errol Spence, has made him pay every single time, and Keyshawn Davis did the same thing. But I just want to see Keyshawn Davis in with someone on that top shelf, I think, by the way, I think he can go with those guys. But again, let's just wait until we see him fight those top shelf guys. All right. Eddie Hearn again. Cruz versus Davis. Make it happen. This time in the pros, they fought in the amateurs 4 times and Davis lost them all. Now, is that Pitbull Cruz, Eddie? Is that who you're referring to? That's at one. Is he 140? I thought he was 135. Hang on. Maybe I've mixed that up, have I? It's an interesting name too, isn't it? Keyshawn Davis? Or Keyshawn? Super lightweight. Okay. All right, yep. So yesterday, no, it was at lightweight, 134 and a half, 134 and a quarter he weighed. Okay, so he's a lightweight. But yeah, Cruz would be a good fight. Eddie, or Edward, don't know really what to call you there. Look, some great fights to make at 135 to 140. Just, it's a bit like, around that 154 mark. Just some awesome fights. So it's almost like it's in like staggered stages in the pro. You've got the 154 sort of area and a little bit of the overspill of the 147s going in there. Then you've got 135 to 140, and then you've got that 118, 122 mark as well. So, but either way, across all those divisions, just some really good fights to be made. All right, Tony. Regarding Michael Zerafa, hang on. Is that the comment you put on before? Sorry, I think you've put that up there twice there, Tony. I hope I answered that. Okay. Where are we? Garden Snake. All right. What is your take on friends not fighting each other? Keyshawn and Shakur say they won't fight each other unless it's some ridiculous payday. Yeah, I suppose it is what it is, Garden Snake. I know in the past a lot of fighters have been sparring partners with each other. There's been, they've spent camps with each other and all this sort of stuff, and then they fought down the track, and it's just business. Friends is probably a little bit different. It would be hard for these guys, and I think it would be also hard for the public to take the fight seriously when you've got two friends fighting each other. I don't know. Who knows? I'm sure, look, there's a lot of probably boxers out there that have been sort of chummy with other fighters and they fought. I mean, end of the day, it's a business. They've got it on. I think it'd be hard for them, but at the end of the day, if they get paid $10 million each, well, I'm sure that friendship will sour pretty quickly. Aussie pugilist. Has old mate Big J got any claim to fame as a boxer? I don't know. Aussie pugilist, let us know. Big J, I don't think so. Why don't you answer that, Big J? I don't know, mate. All right, Eminem, your mate Conor Ben cleared of any wrongdoing. Yeah, that's good. I did watch a little bit of his interview that he did, and I watched about 3 seconds and had to move on. The guy is an absolute flog. He really is. He's just like, have a little bit of humility, a little bit of decency, a little bit of respect, whatever you might want to call it. But when you're getting interviewed, just a little bit of integrity. I don't care. Professionalism, whatever you might want to call it. But Conor Ben has none of it. And yeah, it's great that he's been cleared of any wrongdoing, Eminem, because we might see some big fights for him in England. The Eubank fight obviously is out there for him, but it doesn't change my opinion of him, mate. I just think he's an absolute flog. Andrew, did Ben grow up in Australia? Now, I think he did. Now, Nigel, his dad, spent a lot of time here, and I think he did spend a bit of his childhood in Australia. Andrew, yep. But you wouldn't know because his accent is purely British. But I don't know where he gets it from, where he thinks he's got to act a certain way. I mean, the performance he put on against Eubank Jr. on the Riyadh card was a few weeks back. That was just so cringeworthy and embarrassing for Conor Ben. I don't know who's advising him, or maybe he just does it himself. I don't know, but geez, mate, we know you're a bad ass supposedly, but mate, I was watching him on the pads when it was at day one. He was in there trying to do his best Mike Tyson impression. Mate, first of all, your feet are way too far apart. Those slick boxes are going to just cut you to pieces. You're going to be left there with your dick in your hand, basically. Your feet are too wide. They're going to step off to the side, and you're going to be just sitting there in no man's land, and they're going to make you pay. There you go. Free bit of advice for Conor Ben. But doesn't change my opinion, guys. I'm not a fan of Conor Ben. Anyway, I still want him to fight those guys in big fights, but it doesn't have to be that way. Just be respectful, Conor. It's not that hard. All right, Cal. Do you think Tszyu will waste his time as Zerafa? And has anyone heard how Tim's going? I'm just a fan and cannot find anything. Bit sad on No Limit Boxing. Yeah, I'm with you, Cal. I've been on the pages every day. No Limit have been very, very quiet. I wouldn't mind just seeing, and I think we're at the point now. I know Tim's put up a couple of Instagram posts, I think it is. I would just like maybe to say to Tim, now is the time, even if it's with his manager, Glenn Jennings, who does these little mini interviews he does with the fighters in the lead up to these events. Just maybe a sit down over a coffee with Glenn Jennings for 10 minutes just to say to Tim, how you tracking, mate? I think everyone just wants to hear from him. More importantly, not so much about what's going to happen down the track. More so, Tim, how you doing, mate? How'd you pull up? You know, heart to heart. Not with a Ben Damon or a Noonan Boy, someone interviewing him or Jai McAllister. It's just him and his manager sitting down over a coffee and just let us know what's happening. I reckon that's what we want to see, just to see he's okay. And will he waste his time with Zerafa? Well, again, if you hear all the noise, Cal, with all the money and everything at stake and all this stuff going on, looks like it's going to happen. But again, I'll stand by it. I would not fight Michael Zerafa this time next year. Let's see how we're going. Even maybe June, July, August, wherever it might be next year. Just give Tim at least one fight. I'm thinking at least, well, maybe even 2 fights, just to be back. Get a couple of wins under your belt, because I think with Tim it's going to be all upstairs. To get back to Tim, because I think a prime Tim, I don't think, and with all due respect to Michael Zerafa, and if he's watching, I'll probably get a message from him in a minute saying, pull your head in. That's sort of what he likes to do. But I would think that a prime Tim Tszyu should have no dramas with Michael. But if they fight next, I would give Michael Zerafa a better chance than I've ever given him ever, and a legitimate chance to win. So that's what they've got to weigh up. Is it the risk of fighting Michael Zerafa, who's going to have his tail up, he's going to be ready to go, he's going to be walking tall, he's going to want Tim? Or is it worth longevity down the track of saying, hey, it might make sense to Michael Zerafa and some of the boxing fans out there, but we've got to look at our big picture going forward. And with all due respect again to Michael, Tim's vision should be on getting back into the elite world level of the 154-pounders, not coming back to Australia and fighting domestic fights. So, because this is only a big fight in Australia. It really is. So that's the decision they're going to have to make, Cal. But I'm with you there. I would like to see No Limit just maybe get something out there. And as I said, sit down with Glenn Jennings would be the perfect, I think, sort of fix for the Aussie boxing fans as far as Tim goes. Andrew, who wins Hitchens or Paro? Paro for me there, mate. Carl, Paro will not respect anything Richardson has to offer. He'll be on the back foot the whole fight. Liam chases him down and boxes his ears off. I'm with you there, Carl. I agree. Who we got there? Puro Sir, is it? Salute to you there too, mate. I'm judging by that profile picture of Canelo. You are a Mexican fan, so welcome to the show, mate. Great to have you along. Good question, Andrews. Who's Hitchinson's beat? Or Hitchens, sorry. No one of note. No one of note. So I must be a little bit behind here. I'm still getting comments about Chris Bird. Thanks, Kirsten. Damien, when are you heading out to the States? Okay, I'm heading to the States next Tuesday or Wednesday, I think it is. So next Monday I'll be the last show for a couple of weeks. So I'm heading away with the family for a couple of weeks, and my youngest son's just finishing up year 12, his exams, so we thought we'd get away before Christmas and might take him to Vegas and get him hooked up over there. No, I'm only joking. He's only 18, or about to turn 18. No, we just want to get him away. He's a Boston Celtics nut, so we're going to go to Boston and go down to Dallas and San Antonio and Houston, get around there, and sure they're riding high down that way after the election last week, aren't they, in Texas? So, but yeah, next week, Damien. All right, Garden Snake. Roy Jones' comparison talk was absolutely ludicrous. For Boots, by 27, Roy beat Hopkins, Tony, Virgil Hill, and Mike McCallum. That's 4 Hall of Famers. Boots is 27, best win his Karan in a tough fight. Couldn't have said it better, Garden Snake. You hit it right on the head. Oh, okay, so this is Ike, whatever his name is. He had a jail sentence. Okay, thanks, Glenn. Eddie Hearn was going at it with Blair Cobbs. It was some good banter. I did see that, Garden Snake. I don't rate Blair Cobbs. hang on, Blair Cobbs. I call him Bear Clobbs. Blair Cobbs. I'm not a fan of his either, Garden Snake. I know he's looked good in some of his fights, but what was it? The Adrian Broner fight, was it? That's who he fought. That's his best win. Broner's shot to pieces, so I wouldn't really rate that fight. Hang on, let's have a look. Let's have a look at his record. Blair Cobbs. All right, so he's the Flair, of course, 17-1-1. So yeah, his last win fight was against Broner in June. Did lose that fight, remember, to Alexis Rocha. Stopped in the 9th round. That was only 2.5 years ago. Yep, lot to prove yet, Garden Snake, and a long way to go. Kirsten Usyk easy, Jai's too basic. Okay, yep. I think, as I said, Kirsten, I think right at the moment I would back Usyk, but yeah, I just think Jai in another 2 or 3 fights, I think he'll be a totally different proposition. Let's see if they fight at heavyweight. It would be great to see. Watch Ike versus Tua. It's awesome. Ike's on the roids. Great fight. Okay, I'll check that out. Not sure why I haven't seen a lot of him, to be honest, Andrew. I don't know. Actually, 99 when his last fight was. When I had my last fight at the end, was it end of 98, the Commonwealth Games, probably for the next 2 years after that, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to boxing, if I'm being honest. We bought a business, I went into that, did not even watch boxing for 2 years. So that's obviously when he had his last fight, so obviously didn't know a lot of him. And the couple of years before that, the last thing I was worrying about was what's happening with him. It was probably more so myself. But yeah, I will check that fight out, Andrew. Thanks for that. Do you feel the Karan point deduction for excessive clinching was a good call? I'd like to have seen that same energy for Boots' low blows. Yeah, I thought. Look, he did get warned a lot, Garden Snake, for excessive clinching. I think he was given a lot of latitude, if you ask me. I think the referee gave him a lot of warnings and a lot of chances, I think, to pull his head in. And I don't think he had a choice in the end, Garden Snake. So no, I didn't have a problem with it. But there were some low blows from Boots, 100% there was. Not enough to warrant a point, though, I wouldn't have thought. Carl, Boots has had 2 bad showings in a row. I'm not sold on him. 33 fights in, and Karen is his best opponent thus far. Yep. The motto I've always had in my business, Carl, and probably in life is you talk it up, you got to back it up. And not just Boots, there's a lot of them out there in the same boat. So 33 fights in, he's got to step it up right now at 27 years of age. You look back to yesteryear, though. The 27-year, I mean, a lot of the great fighters of yesteryear at 27 were almost considered washed up. And Boots hasn't even fought anybody. And, I mean, we even go back to, I remember when Sugar Ray Leonard fought Marvin Hagler at 30. It was like this, this hero from yesteryear. He's been out of the ring for 3 years, whatever it was. He was 30 years of age. And Hagler was seen as a dinosaur. He was 32. If you can believe that. Just crazy. No Limit have nothing without Tim. He gets what he wants. That's a conundrum as well, Carl. Is it No Limit saying, hey, Tim, Tim maybe and his management might want to go the route of the couple of tune-ups. No Limit are going, well, we've still got a business to run. We still need content. We need big fights for pay-per-view. Look, it doesn't really matter. Whoever Tim fights, if it's in Australia or wherever it might be, they're both going to be pay-per-views anyway, or whatever the fight is, it's going to be a pay-per-view, so they don't have to worry about that, but they want big pay-per-views. Remember, they're a business. They've got to make money, and they've invested a lot in Tim, so I've got a feeling they're going to want the Zerafa fight as soon as possible. And by the sounds of it, as I said, doesn't look like Michael's interested in fighting Nikita. So, and I don't blame him either, if I'm being honest. I'd be saying, look, it doesn't get me fired up. I want Big Brother. So there's some decisions that are going to have to be made there. And I've said before, if No Limit have the best interests of Tim at heart, they're not fighting Michael Zerafa next. They're saying, let's wait and give him at least one tune-up. What's that YouTube gold? Keith Thurman. Oh, yeah, to fight. Yeah, maybe. Although he's disappeared. We haven't heard one peep from Keith Thurman since start of the year when he pulled out of the Tim Tszyu fight. No talk of any comebacks. I mean, what's he been out of the ring for 2-3 years, whatever. I think he's had like 3 fights in 4 years or something, hasn't he? Or 5 years. 5 years it might be. Hang on, I'm going to have to type his record in there. Keith Thurman. Yeah, I don't think they'd trust him, YouTube Gold. I don't think they would trust Keith Thurman to get to the finish line. So Keith's last fight was in February 2022. So nearly 3 years ago was his last fight. And before that was 3 years before that. So he's had one fight in 5.5 years. So how can we put Keith Thurman up? It would be good, but I just don't think they'll risk it. So, yeah. Look, there's plenty of other journeymen out there that they could get. I'm sure they'll find somebody, but in my opinion, he needs at least one tune-up fight. Who'll be on the 2 No Limit cards in December? Good question. I know I better not spill the beans, but I think Shannon O'Connell will be on one of the cards in an all-Aussie affair. So keep a lookout for that one. I won't mention some of the other names I've heard because they're all just pie-in-the-sky stuff, so I don't know. Liam Wilson, there was talk of him, maybe Eminem, but I can't. I've heard different stories, but that's all they are, stories. So I don't know. But 2 cards within a week of each other, apparently. YouTube, Keith set the whole Tim downside. What's that? Kim set the whole Tim downside, so I match up now to make things right. Yeah, still don't see it, YouTube. I don't think so. Come on, Lynden, says Andrew. If Tim can't beat Zerafa straight away, he should retire. I'm with you, Andrew. The problem is if he doesn't beat Zerafa, exactly, his career's basically over because the Australian public will drop him in 2 seconds flat. He's already been dropped probably internationally. They're going to make him work very hard to get back. So I understand it. But what I'm saying is that he's 29, was just turned 30 years of age. He's probably got 5 or 6 good years left in him, or at least 5, let's say. So why risk that and millions of dollars that he could earn to put him in a real risky fight? Now, as I said, I think the Tim Tszyu fight before these losses this year would absolutely dominate Michael. But just at the moment, Michael will be walking tall. Tim would be brought down a few notches. I just think it's bad timing. So, but you are right. If he can't beat Michael Zerafa, he should retire. But why just go straight into a Michael Zerafa fight when you don't have to? So I'm with you there, mate, in some respects. But that's what I said. Some decisions have to be made. Does he fight him or doesn't he? Do we look at the now or the future? Only they can make up or make the decisions. This is why the eye test is something you can't depend on fully until they fight elite level competition. 100%, mate. What do you think of the Tszyu versus Dana Coolwell fight? Thanks, Kirsten. Oh, look, it's pretty obvious that Dana Coolwell's the B-side, Kirsten. And look, if I'm being honest, he's up against it. Carrington is a very, very good fighter. I think he would definitely be the favourite. Doesn't mean I won't be, as they say over in America, rooting for our guy. But it's going to be a tough fight. I think this is for Dana. I think that he's obviously been brought over there as the opponent, and it's all been marketed around, or you know, Carrington being the A side and beating Dana Coolwell. So you would think that he would be in the box seat to win, but of course we give Dana Coolwell a chance to win. If I had to pick though, I'd be saying, yeah, Carrington. Unfortunately, Kirsten. Let's hope Dana can shock the Americans like so many other Aussies have. Did they change Dana's opponent, or was it always Tszyu? I think it was always Carrington, Carl. I think it was always him, as far as I know. I think Carrington was on there first, and they've looked around and go, oh, who can we get? Itchy nose out. Who can we get that's around the mark that we can bring over to fight him? And obviously, Dana Coolwell's name came up, and I'm sure there would have been a bit of insider trading going on. There would have been someone that knew someone inside and went, hey, it'd be great to get on a card at some stage. And I went, okay, remember, we could get this guy. We need, a super featherweight or featherweight, whatever he is, that can come over, and we'll get him for this show. So I think he's always been the original opponent, Carl. 10 times profit, says Nikita Tszyu gets hit too much. Tim was selling his cars and going to live in America. I thought the Russian was an easy fight. Called him a step-aside fighter. He did too. The step-aside fighter dropped him 4 times. Yeah, he did. I'm with you though there. I will agree Nikita does get hit too much. And I would hope they would probably see or use the Tim's fight as an example, or maybe a bit of a reason to maybe go back to school a little bit with Nikita. Because he's been very fortunate so far. He's been rocked numerous times, pretty much in every fight that he's had in his last 6 or 7 fights. Has managed to get through them, but the level is still domestic level. So when he gets to international level, it's a whole different ball games because if those guys hurt you, they're going to get you out of there. So let's hope they've sort of seen what happened to Tim and go and maybe make the decision to, either get someone else involved with Nikita or whatever it might be. But I'm with you, he does get hit too much at the stage, and maybe they probably know that, which is why they're keeping him at domestic level at the moment. Yeah, Kirsten, I'm with you. It was always Tszyu as far as I'm aware. I'm with you. Jules, how are you, Jules? Hilarious at the fight Matchroom was trying to make a few years ago. It was Hitchens versus Love. That's right, that word too. Spark and Paro derailed those plans. Liam to finish the job now. Let's hope so, Jules. Did you watch the doco from a few years back on Tszyu? This is Bruce Carrington, Brownsville born, for those that haven't seen now. I'm not sure whether it was you, Eminem. Someone sent me that. I must admit I forgot all about it. Now that you've reminded me, I will watch it. I have got it on my, I can't remember if it was Instagram or something, whoever sent it to me. I will watch it. But no, I haven't yet, mate. Garden Snake, Shakur versus Zepeda. Tank versus, is that in, hang on, who are you talking about there? Keyshawn versus Berenchek. The three matchups I'd like. Oh, Loma, sorry. No, I'm thinking, what is that there? It's no capital L. Okay, so Shakur versus Zepeda, Tank versus Loma, Keyshawn versus Berenchek are the three matchups I'd like in 2025. The problem with that, Garden Snake, it looks like Loma is going to retire. I don't blame him. I've got no problems with it, if I'm being honest, with Loma. I think, if your heart's not in it, then get out. There's not much more he could do apart from the paydays, but maybe he's earned enough money, and maybe money doesn't mean everything to him. I don't know, but I think Shakur Zepeda would be a brilliant fight. Keyshawn Berenchuk would be a really good fight as well. So all around the lightweight limit, or 135 to 140. No, Tank's still lightweight, isn't he? So 135. Yeah, they would be great fights, mate. The Shakur Zepeda fight really intrigues me. Can Shakur Stevenson keep Zepeda off for 12 rounds? But I'm still to be convinced with Zepeda. The matchups he's had so far have been very ordinary. I don't think he's been anyone of note. So that's the question mark for me. I think he's capable, but that's the fascinating fight for me. I don't think Tank and Loma happens. Keyshawn and Berenchuk, I would back Keyshawn Davis to beat Berenchuk. I think he can take that belt. He's not a fighter like, say, Navarrete was, where very one-dimensional, very slow, very telegraphs the punches. Keyshawn Davis is lightning fast, brilliant counter-puncher, brilliant footwork. I think he exposes Berenchuk as being pretty flat-footed and one-dimensional, and I think Keyshawn Davis, that's probably the one fight I can probably pick with a bit of confidence, is Keyshawn Davis to beat Berenchuk, I think, pretty comfortably. Tony, highly impressed with your analysis of the Tszyu Zerafa potential fight. Thanks, mate. 100% agree with you. Bad timing for Tim as his confidence has been hit for 6. It has too, mate, for sure. Although I don't think Andrew agrees with me. Where are you, Andrew? Tony, if he can't beat Zerafa. Oh, sorry. Thanks, Mark. All right, so you meant Andy Cruz versus Keyshawn Davis. Cruz is now trained by Bozy Ennis. Yeah, okay. Well, Cruz has got a long way to go, hasn't he? He only had, 5 fights, whatever it might be. Great potential fight. I'm thinking probably 2 or 3 years down the track, though, for that one. Let Keyshawn Davis win his belt. Cruz to get up to 9, 10, 11 fights, whatever it might be, then look at it. That's a tough fight to pick. Really tough fight to pick, because we know what Andy Cruz brings. He's an Olympic gold medalist. The guy can fight. We know that. Yeah, there's some really good fights to, again, add Andy Cruz to the mix. I didn't even think of him before. There's some great fights to make at 135. Breakaway. Oz Boxing is rocking. Hope it flourishes in the future. Big fan of Jai and Justice. Slick operators. They certainly are. Breakaway. Thanks for tuning in too, mate. Larry Liston. How do you feel about Conor Benn versus Boots next? I was never into Eubank versus Ben Jr. I think that fight could create a potential star. Both have looked shaky lately. Yeah, I'm with you as far as Eubank and Ben. I understand it makes a lot of sense as far as money goes, but one's a middleweight / super middleweight. The other one's a welterweight. So I'm not sure we can really take that. Well, I was going to say whether we can take that fight seriously. Well, of course, they were supposed to fight each other. Was it a couple of years ago? I think Conor Benn and Boots is a really good fight, actually. Really good fight. Actually, the fight I would like to see is Conor Benn and Ryan Garcia. Now, that is an entertaining fight. I'd probably prefer to see out of all those around that weight, sort of 147 or 145 to 150, you may as well say, Conor Benn, Ryan Garcia. That would be a great fight. And that would, geez, imagine the lead up in the press conferences to that one. Wow. All right, Tony. Jennings did Tim dirty by throwing him in front of the media right after being flogged by the Chechen. Yeah, I'm not sure whether that was actually Glenn Jennings doing it, Tony, but maybe in hindsight, Glenn would have said, no, we're not going to send him out there. I'm with you there, Tony. I was actually very critical of that as well. If I had been Glenn out the back or his promoters, again, we don't know whether it was the promoters pushing him out or No Limit pushing him out, or it was the promoters of the event, which was what PBC saying, hey, as per our contractual obligations, you've got to go out. Or maybe Tim himself said, no, I want to go out. I doubt it would have been Tim saying that, because he didn't say anything anyway. I can't recall. He said that twice, and the other one was just a off the cuff remarks. I'm not quite sure it would have been Tim saying, hey, I want to go out there and address everyone, because that's the last thing you want to do after that's happened to you. Rest assured, that's the last thing he would have wanted to do, is go and front the media. But if I'd have been out there, Tony, I would have said, I don't care what your contract says and what your obligations are. He's not going out. He's not in the right frame of mind to go out, so stick your obligations. And what are they going to do? So that's what I would have done. But I'm not going to throw Glenn under the bus, Tony, because we just don't really know what happened. Cal, what about Boots and Tim at 154? Good fight. Tim's got a long way to go, though, Cal. Hey, that's great to look at those matchups down the track, but it's going to take Tim 12 to 18 months to get back to where he was, if I'm being honest. So I know you're only as good as your last fight. Maybe he comes out and smokes someone. Maybe it's Michael Zerafa. He smokes him in 5 or 6 rounds and looks great, and then back amongst it, you don't know. But we're all a little bit glum at the moment still, aren't we? But I think he's just got a long way to go, Cal, but that would be a fantastic fight. What's that, Larry? As I understood it from the Zerafa interview, the primary reason why he was even letting Donaire train him is because of the Donaire's connections with the sanctioning bodies. Well, it didn't really do him much good. Well, actually, it did do him a lot of good, didn't it? Because he got the number 1 ranking with a couple of sanctioning bodies without really beating anyone. So, but having said that, Larry, it also showed in the fight, didn't it? So maybe the sanctioning bodies will be a little bit more reluctant to rank guys like Michael as high next time, although they continue to do it, don't they? But and they've done it a little bit with what's his name, the guy that's going to fight Jai next. So yeah, is Donaire still with him, Larry? I think he is, isn't he? Didn't come out for his last fight though. Only comes out for the big fights apparently. Does Donaire? All right, Damien. You're so correct about Conor Benn. I bet he's a Collingwood supporter. 100% Damien. He would be a Collingwood supporter, Conor Benn. No, if I'm being honest, Damien, I reckon Conor Benn carries on like an Essendon supporter. Maybe a Richmond supporter. That's how they carry on. We're not getting in the footy though, mate. No footy this time of year. No footy, no elections. We're moving on. Larry, that's not a bad fight either. However, I would like seeing Tim get a tune-up in between first to get some confidence. Yep, I agree. Tony, days gone by, Aussie boxers like our local legend Dave Russell. Yep, used to do exhibition fights at the Bluestone College. Wonder if any Aussie boxers are proactive in that area. Real down-to-earth fella. He was a legend, Dave Russell, Tony. Quick story about that. I actually sparred Dave Russell once. I was only a kid down at Mick Canavan's gym in Ringwood. And Dave used to go down there and he let me get in there and spar with him. I would have been 60 kilos. He was a heavyweight, of course. And he let me just pound him around for a couple of rounds. But just a really lovely guy. He looked rough as guts. Looked like a big bikie. But just a gentle giant he was. Really, really nice guy, Dave Russell. Andrew says Zerafa would be a confidence booster. Yeah, well, again, lots of decisions to be made, Andrew. I'd love to be a fly on the wall when they're in the offices discussing what's next. Larry, so many American fighters have terrible styles and are extremely boring to watch. Shakur, Hitchens, Haney. So I appreciate Boot's style, although flawed. He always gives great fights. Credit to Karen. Yeah, no, it's a good point, Larry. Very, very similar, aren't they? All those type of fighters. Yep. And you could probably put Keyshawn Davis in there as well. He was exciting on the weekend, but very similar style to Shakur Stevenson, Richardson Hitchens, Devin Haney. Yep, they all fight from the same textbook, don't they? Shadow Boxer. As much as it's a business, I just can't see Glenn Jennings going for the Zerafa fight for Tim. It doesn't help the brand. That would be my advice if I was Glenn Shadow Boxer. Dave Varell, what do you got there, mate? Rick Thornberry, another Aussie legend, gave Calzaghe a tough 12 rounds, good Aussie battler. Yep. We probably need to do an episode, I think, on the unheralded Australian boxers throughout the years. A lot of them have just been really, really good fighters, and no one's really heard of them, but they were solid and actually had international fights of substance too. And Rick Thornberry, he was a really good fighter, Dave, for sure. Are you hiring for your wine company, or maybe you need a guy on boxing deep dive production team? I'd love to be at a point, Garden Snake, where we were big enough to need a production team, mate. But with 45 people viewing, I doubt we're there yet, mate. But I really appreciate it. It's not a wine company. It's a liquor company. So we do beer, wine, premixed drinks, the whole works. It's called Top Dog Liquor, by the way. There's only 4, about to be 5 stores, but we're getting there. Can't wait to fork out another $70 for D-level fights. That's for the No Limit show, says Carl. Yes, well. Deontay Wilder's just said he had a broken arm during his fights with Joseph Parker and Zhilei Zhang, but didn't realise it. Are you buying it? I didn't hear that, Garden Snake. I'm calling bullshit on that. Deontay Wilder, just deal with it, mate. You lost. You lost, mate. And I've got a feeling that even if he had a broken arm against Zhilei Zhang, that wasn't going to help him when he got knocked out. So, Deontay Wilder, don't get me started on Deontay. I'm going to jump on the soapbox again. Just accept that you lost, Deontay. It's not going to help it. We all saw what happened. We all saw that, you did the chicken dance and then you got knocked out and you barely won a round against either guy. So, just relax a bit, Deontay. Just be thankful that you were matched up so well in those 10 title defences. Tszyu should take 80% of the money and give Zerafa 20%, and if he doesn't like it, move on. Yep, not a bad call, Peter. I did see that Zerafa said that, or Michael said that it was probably that he was now going to be the A side. Doesn't matter. Tim Tszyu, no matter what the circumstance of his last fight, is the A, B, and C side in this fight, I can tell you. But on the flip side, for the fight to work, we need Michael to be the bad guy, and I'm sure he'll step into the role very, very well. We need him to play the role. And will it be as big as Mundine Green? I don't think so. I don't think we'll ever have an Aussie fight that'll surpass Mundine Green, but this will probably be the second biggest, I would say. Uh-oh. Did you see Allen sign Victoria to 2 more 2 big build tunnels, lock them up? I didn't see that, Peter. Don't get me started on the Victorian government, mate. Don't get me started. I did see that, I think, was it 380,000 invoices remain outstanding for that stupid property tax. $400 million worth of money outstanding that they just decided to slug people who have second properties. Well, if you've got enough money to have second properties, then you got enough money to pay extra tax. Don't get me started. I'm not going to go on with the election, by the way. For everyone that's wondering, I'm not going to get into it. I've had my say. All I will say is that I hope this is a lesson to parties like the Labor Party and the voters that it's time to rise up and vote these pieces of shit out. Don't stand for all this bullshit anymore. Don't sit back and have the minority rule the majority. Again, I'm not going to get into all the logistics of that. But when it comes to Victoria, they did it in Queensland. Let's do it here in Victoria and vote these pieces of shit out who are just ruining this state. The most overtaxed, overgoverned state in the country, and these people are a disgrace. Absolute pieces of shit. And it's just a continuation on from the Dan Andrews era. And we all thought, rubbing our hands together, Dan Andrews is gone. Jacinta Allen's just an understudy of him. So it's going to be the same until we vote them out. But unfortunately, though, Peter, as you probably know, Victoria is probably it is probably the most, you'd say in American terms, most liberal state, the most left-leaning state out of all the states in Australia. And they just like being dictated to and treated like shit and treated like idiots. And there's not enough people with common sense to vote them out. Let's hope that we get our act together and get these idiots out. Anyway, let's move on. Mike Tyson is $3.50 to win against Jake Paul and $13.50 for a decision win. It will be a shame if he loses, but everyone will say it's because he's 58 years old. I think that's exactly why he's losing profits. I think that's why he's losing 58. He's 58 years old with $3.50 to win. What's Jake Paul? I'm assuming he's a lot less than that. Andrew says, to me, you guys are selling Tim short. We all thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Now he can't beat Zerafa. Mate, it's a good call. I can't believe I'm saying I would give Michael Zerafa a chance against Tim. Only in the next fight. I think if Tim has a tune-up fight and gets his confidence back, the Michael Zerafa fight is one-sided. Now, you might come back with, well, if he's the fighter we all think he is, it doesn't matter the loss he had last time out. He should still be able to get over Michael Zerafa. And you might be right. But you're right. We all did think, I never thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think I said before his last fight on here, on the stream of the day of the fight, saying I'm really cautious or curious to see whether the Tim Tszyu we've seen in Australia can replicate that and be the Tim Tszyu in the USA. And obviously he wasn't, because he's lost his last 2 fights over there. So, but he's super talented, of course, capable of doing it, but how quick we all drop off. But yeah, I still think he beats Zerafa, Andrew. I just don't think they need that aggravation at this time of his career. I really don't. Serrano Taylor will be a good fight. It'll be a great fight, mate. I can't wait. Lynden, did you ever think you'd be talking A side, B side in boxing? No, I didn't, mate. Didn't think so. Larry, I think Tim will come back and look great in his next fight. He stops Zerafa and gets back on track. At least that's what I hope. Yep, I'm with you there, Larry. I agree. There is like 10 boxing cards this weekend. Who are you picking? Zerdo versus Bill and Smith. I'm going to go for Zerdo Ramirez. Garden Snake. I think he can get the job done. People like Zerafa and Hardman are great for promotion build-up. They are funny and aren't boring like a lot of the fighters. I've never been the biggest Michael Zerafa fan, mate, but I do really like the way he goes about the business of building up a fight. Plays the bad guy so well. And Isaac Hardman, how could you not like Isaac Hardman, the head splitter? I hope we see him back. He's a legend in the build-up. Probably the best fight builder-upper, if that makes sense, if that's a word. And when those guys actually fought, probably the most entertaining build-up we've had probably since Mundine Green. It was awesome. Carl says, I think Andy Cruz is way too far beyond Keyshawn. Yeah, yep. Tszyu should have signed with Turkey. He would have loved watching Tszyu lose. Yes, he would have. I'm surprised he didn't put anything out on his social media there, mate. Yes, says Andrew. Ben versus Garcia. Great fight. Tim didn't just lose. He got embarrassed. He did. That's why I think it's important we just hear something from him, mate. What's that? Are you taking Abdullah versus Kid Austin right now? Isn't Mason? Hang on. Who's Kid Austin again? Someone told me that last week. I missed. Is his nickname? Who fought last weekend? That's his nickname. I didn't get that last week. I'm not getting it now. Who fought? Anyway, fill me in there, guys. Where are we? 10 times Prophet says, I'm not trolling. I'm telling the truth. Tim just lose. He got embarrassed. Yeah, I don't think you're trolling there. I just probably been a little bit harsh, but hey, that's what we're here for, to talk boxing. So no problems. What's that, Carl? Those Lions supporters are bloody top blokes. Pretty easy to be top blokes when you're winning all the time, Carl. Have you heard when Nikita Tszyu's hand will be right? I think they're talking about mid-next year, Carl. I think that's when they're looking to get him back. It's mid-next year. I don't think he's out of his cast or whatever it is. I don't think he's going to be punching until early next year by all accounts. So maybe not June next year, but it will be definitely, not before May or April, May, I wouldn't have thought. Michael Zerafa just needs some more time working with Rachel Donaire and he'll be unstoppable. Yeah, she's a great trainer, old Rachel. Just ask her. Carl, talking about Boots, age of 27. What about what Salvador Sanchez achieved by 23? 23 years of age. And there is an argument that he's the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, Salvador Sanchez. I don't agree with that. But at 23 years of age, he'd made multiple defenses of that WBC featherweight title and just could have been anything. He was just a great fighter to watch. 23 years of age, if you can believe that, when he died. Just crazy. John Jones is the best combat fighter that ever lived. Says Dana White. Never saw him profit, so I can't comment on that. Sorry. Oh, this is an interesting one. Who would have won in the prime? Froch versus Calzaghe. Calzaghe for me, Tony. I think would have beaten Cal Froch for sure. Cal Zerafa should have been fight before last for Tim and go Mike Jake's a knob. I don't agree with that, Cal, as far as Zerafa for Tim. I don't think Michael Zerafa, ever since he pulled out of that fight, what was it, back in 21, I think it was, I think ever since then, they haven't even looked at Michael Zerafa. And the only reason they are now is because they need, obviously, a way back, a path back. But, yeah, I don't think he should have even looked at Michael. You got to remember, too, Cal, Tim was fighting for world title belts, and Michael Zerafa did as well. They're two different weight divisions. So one's 154, 160. So I'm not sure they should have fought each other. They're both on their own path. Michael was ranked number 1 by 2 organisations. He had those belts in his sights, and Tim at 154 was on his own path. So I just don't think. I think once that fight fell over, 3 years ago, it was just going to be going in different directions. So. Shadow Boxer, my stores, they are located in regional Victoria. Carlo Copetta, how are you, Carlo? Welcome to the show. What's that, Carlo? If you ever need a taste tester up north, let me know. Yes, I'll let you know that, mate. I've been offered that a few times, though. You might have to wait in line for that. John Wayne Parr documentary, Blessed with Venom, on YouTube is a good watch. Okay, I'll check that out. And I think there's also a Beck Rawlings one. Sorry, not Beck Rawlings. It's Beck Rodriguez now. I'm gonna watch that. I'm looking forward to that. It's just come out on Netflix, so make sure you check that out as well. It's the Beck Rawlings / Rodriguez. I think it's called Fight to Live or something like that. So have a look at that one as well. Andrew, we have a Mayweather hangover. A lot of the Americans are risk averse, except Davis and Crawford. Yep, I agree. It's not a bad thing to have a loss on your record, guys. This whole Mayweather mentality, you've got to have an O. That's what's killed boxing in the last probably 10 years. Thankfully, with the help of some money from Turkey, LL Sheikh and others, we're starting to come out of that. But I just would love us to take that MMA mentality where, hey, it's just a loss. Move on. Just get the next best fight. What's that? Thoughts on the rumours of Jai perhaps getting unification next year against Noel Michelalian after his next fight? Is that how you pronounce it? I haven't seen that, Larry. All I know is Jai wants the smoke and wants to fight all comers to get all belts. And if he doesn't, I think you'll see he'll move to heavyweight. What's up with the IBF constantly feeding Jai these weird opponents? Breeders ×2 made sense, but Massey and now that 40-year-old German, all due respect, but seems like it's a bit of a waste of time for Jai. I agree, Larry. Look, credit to Jai. He's just fighting whoever they put in front of him. He doesn't want to lose that belt again without losing it in the ring. But I think at some stage, I think if he gets, let's say for instance, he fights the winner of Ramirez and Billum Smith, if he does get another couple of belts, you might see him go, you know what, stick your IBF belt. Unless he can obviously unify all of them. But even if he does, I think he would just drop the IBF because they seem to be the most inconsistent one and the most sort of anal one. They're always on him and threatening to strip him and others as well. I think I just think the IBF are making life hard for themselves, for people wanting to fight for the belt. Because look at Boots Ennis yesterday. He beat that Karen easily a year and a half ago, and he's been made to fight him again. That fight should never have happened. All right, Cal, I'm just stoked Aussie boxers on world stage, up the Aussies, and I agree in politics. Yep. Agree with you there, Cal. You tell him there, Andrew. Sam Newman on his YouTube loves having a go at the Vic government. That's because we are the worst government in Australia. Profits. And Sam, got to love Sam, tells it exactly the way it is. And whatever he said, I didn't see it, but I would agree with it because we're of the same distinction, I suppose. Sammy Newman. Yes, Carl. Mike is 58. Let that sink in. Yeah, I can't get past it. Look, I will say he looks in good condition, especially obviously for his age. He looks ready to go. And I'm hoping he wins. Don't get me wrong. I'm hoping Mike Tyson wins. I just think he'll be good for a round and that'll be about it. Might even be half a round. I just can't see a 58-year-old man being able to fight, even though they're 8 2-minute rounds. I can't see how he's going to be good for any more than 1 minute per round. So we will see. Oh, $1.25 for Jake Paul to win. Well, that tells you all you need to know, doesn't it? Zach McCallion can't even defend his WBC belt at the moment as he is in dispute with Don King. I didn't know that. Ryan Rozicki is fighting Yamil Peralta for the WBC interim title. Okay, thanks, Aximan. I didn't know that. Makes sense, though, and good sense. Peter says, Opatai is levels above Tim and always was. Can't argue with that, Peter. Let's hope that Tim can come back. But at the moment, yeah, it's... Can't argue against it, 100%. All right, Damien, No Limit got the greasy little fingers on the Inouye Goodman fight, upping it to $60, did they? On Christmas Eve, we're going to have to pay $60. Again, not forking out 1 cent for the promotion. And not that they'll get a massive uptake, I wouldn't have thought here, Damien, but still they're going to make money for Jam, for money for doing nothing and charging us $60. The No Limit train, is it close to being derailed? I hope not, because I think they've done some fantastic things for boxing. But, however, charging $60 for a fight like this, that's probably free on DAZN or ESPN or whatever it might be overseas, and they're charging us $60, not a great way to keep the boxing fans happy. And now that they haven't got the upper hand, Tim's not in the picture at the moment. They need Tim back, obviously, which is obviously why they're going to push for Tim versus Michael Zerafa. But yeah, I didn't see that, Damien. But $60 on Christmas Eve, not cool. No Limit, not cool. Peter says Zerto destroys Bill and Smith. Skills pay the bills. Can't argue with that. Bill and Smith is boring at best. Zerto isn't much better, but I think he's better than CBS. I agree there, Carl. Geez, the PBC is looking like a proper shit show at the moment, says Carl. I agree. Floyd Schofield. Thanks, Larry. I'm thinking who because we spoke about Floyd Schofield last weekend. I remember even saying last week, what are you talking about there? So it's Floyd Schofield, guys. All right. Damien, yeah, they stung me on my land. Labor, you are going down, you scumbag. Yes, scumbags. I agree there, Damien. Carl, it's crazy, which makes me respect Hopkins a lot. He was unified champ at 49 and was basically 52, still fighting a high opponent like Joe Smith Jr. We might never see that longevity again. Yeah, well, it's a good point. I just don't think Mike Tyson's Bernard Hopkins. But look, you never know. You never know. Peter, if a 50% fit Tszyu turns up, he still stops Zerafa. Yeah, you're probably right, Peter. Yep. So, Cal, thanks for the night. Happy, safe travels. Thanks very much, mate. I appreciate that. What do you think of the Serrano-Taylor rematch? Can't wait, Kirsten. Really can't wait. And it's not that often I really look forward to the ladies fighting. I'm not being sexist or misogynist, whatever they call it these days. I'm all these different names according to whoever you listen to. I just find it hard to sort of watch. But this fight will be the fight of that event, of that night. I can't wait. The first fight was a ripper. Could have gone either way. I think Serrano gets the job done this time. IBF and the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory mandatories are like a very oompa loompa. Good way to put it there, Carl. Why didn't Richie Rolls make it as a pro? He didn't turn pro, Andrew. You obviously seen my video this morning. He would have been a good pro. The problem with Richie was, though, he was susceptible to of being knocked out. I did see him knocked out a couple of times. I don't know. He would have made a good pro, but yeah, maybe look like myself. He just didn't see the pros for him. So I've got so much respect for Richie. Probably the best amateur fight I'd ever fought in Australia. He was a champion bloke as well. Had his health battles as well, but one of the best amateurs I think we've ever produced. Just doesn't get enough love, if you ask me. And if you're out there and you know who Richie Rolls is, I'm sure you'll agree. Just a great fighter and an amateur fighter, but I don't know why he didn't go pro, Andrew. I don't know. Maybe, look, he got married and everything else like I did. Maybe that had a little bit to do with it as well. And he's about my age. So it would have been after the Olympics in 2000. He probably would have been 26, 27, maybe 28. So maybe he thought, nah, it's just too hard a road to go down. I'm just going to go off and get married and have my life. And that's all he wants to do. Not everyone wants to be a world champion pro. So I haven't spoken to him for a few years, so I hope he's doing well. Larry, seems like they're just collecting sanctioning fees. It's the IBF for obscure fighters and promoters, and these challenges are coming out of nowhere. Do they even have title eliminators? Yeah, I just can't make sense of it these days, Larry, all these sanctioning bodies and what they're doing, and the IBF's probably the worst one. Did you check out the rumored Oscar Eddie 5 versus 5 Turkey card? Wasn't it 6 versus 6 Garden Snake? Wasn't Eddie going to fight Oscar on that card? Yeah, I did see it. What were the fights? Was it Zepeda and Shakur, I think was one. Duarte and Haney was another one. Who were Munguia and Pacheco, I think was one. Enlighten me there, guys, but I did see it. I love it. I'd love to see Golden Boy versus Top Rank as well. I think that'll be a good tournament too. But can you imagine the lead up to that? I mean, Eddie versus Frank Warren was good because there was that friction between the two, a lot of animosity between the two promoters, two British promoters. But this would go to another level. Oscar and Eddie, we'd have clapback press conferences. It would be crazy. So, but the fights, just to fill me in who the other fights were there, guys. But whatever they were all good fights anyway. Except I wouldn't mind seeing maybe the girls getting a bit of a run on there as well. What's that, Carl? Boots Ennis will be able to fight at 60 if he keeps fighting opponents like Karen's. Yeah, I agree, Carl. Peter, let it out, mate. I'm not paying $60 for a 3-round fight. In a way, it brings too much heat for Goodman. I've got no choice but to pay it, Peter. I have to anyway. But, look, it's Christmas Eve, Peter. Put the feet up, have a bit of eggnog, put the kids to bed, whatever it's going to be, and watch the fight. I think it's not. Look, I still say it's probably not going to end that well for Sam. I hope it's better than a 3-round fight. But, yeah, $60 is asking a lot, isn't it? It's asking a lot. And, again, especially because No Limit aren't putting the hand in the pocket for 1 cent for this fight, and they're going to probably make, well, how many views would they get? Would they get 10,000? I don't know, 10,000 views. So, what's that? 600,000, so 300 grand they'd probably get out of it. So it's worth it for them. They know we're going to pay it. A lot of fight fans will, although having said that, they're probably not going to tune in for Sam. They're probably tuning in for Inouye, and that might have them saying, hey, it might be Inouye, but I'm still not going to pay $60. That's ridiculous. $60 for that fight. It's crazy. Shadow Boxer, how do you think you would have gone as a trainer? I was actually a trainer for a couple of years, Shadow Boxer. It wasn't really for me, mate. I had a gym, and I started off more as a fitness gym, and for the kids, and for we did the fitness classes and that sort of stuff. But slowly, I did have some fighters sort of come on board, but I just wasn't my cup of tea, mate. I tried. I was registered as a trainer with Boxing Victoria, and actually was one of the coaches that went to the Aussie titles in 2014. But it just wasn't for me. I love being you'd probably more call it a mentor shadow boxer, or maybe a consultant, where I like working with fighters, and especially kids. They'll come, and I've got a gym here at home, so they might come here. I might go to some other gyms, and it might just be working on footwork or body punching or slips and weaves, whatever, but just working on something specific with a fighter rather than being the actual trainer. Not for me. I'm not really interested in that, mate. But I will probably get back into it at some stage, especially now I've got the full gym set up at home with the ring and bags and all that sort of stuff, where I might start doing stuff at home. But as I said, I'll either be doing kids classes or working with fighters, not being a proper trainer. It's a tough gig, mate. I take my hat off to all those guys and girls out there that are sort of full-time trainers, and they give up so much of the time. They're there every single day. They're taking the fighters around for sparring, and they're going away to tournaments and sacrificing a lot of their life for peanuts. So, yeah, I've got all the respect in the world for them, but it's not for me, mate. Not for me. What's that? How do you think you would have gone as a trainer? Oh, sorry, Shutterbox. Yeah, no, I think I didn't really enjoy it, Shutterbox. Look, I've spoken to other fighters about this, and I remember even asking Danny Green. I said, mate, why don't you get back into, or why don't you get into training? And he said the same thing as me. Look, love working with kids and fighters. He said, mate, I just don't need the aggravation. I just couldn't put into it, because you've got to remember, and I know I was guilty of it myself, in that you have the bar raised so high for yourself as a fighter that you expect the same from your fighters coming through. And unfortunately, so many of them just don't have the same commitment or desire or drive, whatever you might want to call it, as what I had or some other boxers that box at that level had. And the expectations become just a bit too high, and they drop away. So, yeah, I had 3 or 4 or 5 fighters or something along the journey. But as I said, mate, I just wasn't for me. 5x5 is a pipe dream. I'm just going back. Where was that, Alan? Did I miss that comment? Oh, I've missed that one. Sorry, your comment there. Who was it? Peter. What do we got? Tony again. Is it true Gus Mercurio had to sell his house because it was close to a tram stop and the tram bell would make him put his hands up and smart shadow boxing? I don't know, Tony. If you don't know who Gus Mercurio was, he's passed away now. He was an American immigrant, so he lived in Australia and was the voice of boxing, wasn't he? He was almost the face of boxing outside the ring, Tony, wasn't he? He was on on Wide World of Sports, I remember, or what was it, on Channel 7, whatever the sports show was. He was the boxing representative. He did all the commentary, and he was, the voice of boxing. And I had the pleasure of meeting him once, and such a lovely guy. And he was an actor as well. He was in a few Aussie movies and TV shows, but I didn't know that about him, Tony. That is true. That is a crazy story that he had to move because the tram bell would make him jump up and start shadow boxing. If you ever start doing that, if you're a boxer out there, it might be time to get out of the sport. I think if you're a boxer and you start jumping up shadow boxing. Andrew, Eddie can box and he's a big man. You are right, Andrew, but I would normally agree with you, but this is Oscar De La Hoya we're talking about, mate. I think doesn't matter how well he's going in the boxer's eyes. I don't think he's got a chance against Oscar De La Hoya. He still looks in pretty good nick. Larry, what's going on with Kambosos Jr.? Good question. First, he was rumoured to fight Liam Wilson. Then he was supposedly going to fight Zerafa, but Tevin Farmer took his spot. Even heard rumours of a Tszyu rematch. Okay, well, we have been waiting for quite some time for news. It's probably been 2, maybe even 3 months since they said big news coming. We still haven't heard anything. The word on the street is it won't be this year. It'll be early next year from what I'm hearing. It wasn't rumoured to fight Liam Wilson, Larry. It was Liam Wilson's crew or his team sort of trying to create buzz with George Kambosos, but George Kambosos wouldn't have even considered Liam Wilson for a second, in my opinion. I think he would see Liam as a massive step back. He'd just be focused, even though George has had a pretty rough 2 or 3 years, whatever it's been since he won the titles. He still sees himself at that world level, so I don't think he would have considered Liam. For Zerafa, I did hear about Zerafa and maybe Tevin Farmer, but I don't think I was just going to say, I don't think Zerafa would have been a fight they would have wanted, but knowing George, he probably would have stepped straight into that one. He'll fight anybody. Look, I think there'll be a big name, I think, Larry, for George Kambosos Jr. I don't think he's finished yet at that level. There's plenty of good fights at that weight. Remember, 135's got a lot of names. He's still a name himself. And even though he hasn't had the best couple of years, he's still a name, and I still think you'll see some big fights for George. What's that, Damien? Not the biggest UFC fans, but tune in. Oh, you're not the biggest UFC fan, but tune in ever so often. Tune in this Sunday. John Jones versus Stipe. Is that my chick? Will be amazing. Yeah, I don't know about those guys, mate. You're not women getting easier pass in life, less round in boxing, easier test to be fighters. Army said they want equality. That's a topic for another day there, Damien. We're not talking about that. What if your home is being robbed by 4 people? Do you want a bunch of female cops showing up or a man? Geez, you're playing with fire, Damien. I'm not going to comment on that one. Some of the more badass people in the world are females, Damien. So I won't get into that, but yeah, I'll let you guys sort that out in the chat. Yep, Gus was an actor. Yeah, he was. Father of Paul Mercurio, that's right, he was. What was the movie? Strictly Ballroom, I think it was. Yep. All right, a couple of more comments before we finish up, guys. Got about 5 minutes to go. Gus's son is a Victorian Labor politician. I didn't know that, Peter. Well, that's it. All respect gone. No, I wouldn't go that far. Look, Gus, who knows his political leanings? We'll never know, I suppose. But the fact his son's, he did it not a great job raising his son if he's a Labor politician, Peter. Carl, Oscar would belt Eddie. I think he just used him for target practice, Carl. Little bit of fun, I would think. Peter says Kambosos would destroy Wilson. It would be a total mismatch. Yeah, I think I would back George in that one, Peter. Look, Liam is a very, very good domestic level fighter. Don't get me wrong, and I think he would be okay. But George, I think George is at that level where he's probably more on the outer fringe of the top 5 or 6 of the lightweight division. I don't think he's good enough to hang with those top 5 or 6. But he's definitely good enough to hang with the 6 through 12 or whatever it might be. So as I said, definitely a lot of room for George out there, still with some big fights for him. And while there's money to be made, why don't you do it? He's still in good nick, still got his faculties, still in ripper condition. What is he, 30, 31? He's still got 3 or 4 years, 5 years left in him if he really wanted to, George, I think. So, but I think he's a type of fighter that if he couldn't get those bigger fights overseas, maybe he would retire. I don't think he's looking to come back to Australia at all. And when you think about it, Liam Wilson's probably not a big enough name to fight here. It's not like it's Tim coming back against Zerafa. George coming back against Liam would be a tough sell for pay-per-views, I'm thinking. YouTube goal, Gerardo Ramirez versus Joe Pataya. Part of the 5x5 would be sick. Yes, geez, that'd be a great fight, wouldn't it? Cambos has only lost to Haney and Loma. Give him a go. That's in response to Mark there. I'll let you guys sort it out. What's your opinion on Navarrete Valdez? Thanks, James. I like that. Just sort of going off track a little bit. I like it. I think so. Navarrete got the job done in the first fight. I think the way Navarrete did, how well he did in that first fight against Oscar Valdez, James. I don't think Oscar at this stage of his career has got enough to get one back on Navarrete. I think styles make fights, as they say, and I think it'll be a replay of the first fight, if I'm being honest, James. But I really like Oscar Valdez. He's such a lovely guy. So I think I'll be hoping he wins. But, yeah, I think Navarrete gets the win. Larry, Zerdo versus Jai has fight of the year potential. I think Zerdo is pretty underrated, but I got Jai beating him convincingly. Faster jab, more athletic, and much higher IQ. I think 100% I've got Jai winning that fight, Larry. YouTube says, YouTube Gold says, I think Jai wins too, but definitely will be competitive. Yeah, they definitely will be competitive, YouTube Gold, but I think Jai wins the fight. Peter, Wilson is not a smart fighter and too brave for his own good, doesn't read the contest well. Well, it was an interesting fight, his last one, wasn't it, Peter? Because that was the fight I was actually at with Valdez, and I thought he did quite well for the first couple of rounds, but as soon as he got sort of drawn into a bit of a firefight with Oscar Valdez, he just fell to pieces as far as his concentration went, and he just got drawn into a brawl and paid the price. So, but he did admit after that what he'd done wrong. So now the challenge for him is to fix it. So we will see if he gets another chance at that level. All right, guys, well, that's probably about it. We are right on about 1 minute to 9, so we'll call it a night. What's that there, Andrew? Have you heard talk about Robbie Peden? Remember the fight with... I heard you talk about Robbie Peden. Remember the fight with Nat? Yeah, both fights. The first one, who can forget that? Andrew, in America, where he poked his chin out and dared him to hit him. It's one fight I would highly recommend you don't do that to is Bomber Peden, because he can punch. And Nate found that out big time. And then, of course, the rematch in Australia. Not the best promoted event ever, Andrew. I think you agree with that. Look, another underrated fighter, Robbie Bomber Peden, one of the best we've ever had overall. So, guys, that is it. Sorry, one last question before we go. Will you be watching Tyson versus Paul? Curiosity will get the better of me. I will be watching, Ryan. Look, I'll be watching it. It's free. It's on Netflix. Of course I'm going to watch it. But I'll be really looking forward to the undercard with Dana Coolwell and Carrington, as well as the girls. And of course I'm going to watch the main event. Of course. It's drama, Ryan. It's very... it's compelling TV, isn't it? So I'm sure we'll be watching. Again, it'll be probably the most watched boxing event of all time, if you can get your head around that. And I'm not talking just of the modern era, of all time. It's free on Netflix. Netflix is the premier streaming service in the world. I understand, Peter, what you're saying. You don't watch that garbage. I get it. And I don't like the fight at all, and the whole thing's a circus. But I've got to admit, I'm going to be watching. So if you guys are watching, make sure you enjoy it. We will be talking about it, of course, next week again. Next Monday will be our last show for probably 2 or 3 weeks. This Thursday, remember to watch Fight Week on Thursday live from 7 p.m. So there'll be myself and a couple of others on here to preview not just the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, but also the Paulo Acuso and Clay Waterman fight as well, which will be on Stan this weekend. So guys, hope you have a great week. Make sure you watch Walking Boxing every morning. The video's up normally before lunchtime, so check it out. Likes, share, subscribe, all that sort of stuff, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys.